Verse 232. The philosophers imagine the world to be of oneness and otherness, of bothness and not-bothness, and to have risen from Isvara, or spontaneously, or from time, or from a supreme spirit, or other causal agency. In the previous verse, we heard about the followers of no birth. The follower of no birth is not interested in any story pertaining to the nature of the world. And some of these stories are outlined in this verse. So it can be said that the follower of no birth is not a philosopher. And lots of possibilities for the backstory of the world are given here. The first four, oneness, otherness, bothness, and the translators interpolated not-bothness, these cover the whole class of things that you can say about the world. That it's either this or not this. These are the basic logical choices. You can say the world came about this way or it didn't. These are the two categories of Western thought. Something is either A or it's not A. A being any kind of statement that you can make about it. But in Indian thought, it seems possible for something to be both what it is and what it's not. It's difficult to think of an example of this. I'm not a Buddhist logician, but I think just to get some sort of handle on this, you can think of a coin and its two opposite sides. It can be heads or not heads, heads or tails. But a coin is actually both, isn't it? It's something which is made up of two opposite sides. And the fourth logical possibility is that something can be neither what it is nor its opposite. So that's not-bothness. The first one was bothness and this is not-bothness. And just taking the simple example of a coin, you can say, well, a coin isn't the sum of both its sides. It's a monetary value. It's something else altogether. It's just symbolic of something. So I hope that's not trivializing it too much. If anybody knows some other examples which characterize these four logical categories, then you can leave a comment. So these represent all the possible things that you can say about the world. And then in the second part of this verse we get some specific examples about it having risen from Isvara. Isvara's some kind of primordial person, or it arose spontaneously. And I think the idea here is that it arose spontaneously in the past. It just suddenly popped into existence at some point. Because I would certainly go along with the understanding that the world arises instantaneously, but it arises instantaneously in this very moment. Or from time. So again, it's something which evolved, perhaps. This is the popular modern understanding of the backstory that the world is the product of billions of years of evolution. And I think some of you might have trouble letting go of that one. Or from a supreme spirit or other causal agency. So these are the stories subscribed to by the philosophers. And if you really feel a strong conviction in any of these, then this is going to obstruct your enlightenment practice. It means you're a philosopher and not a follower of no birth. It means that you're still investing in some story about the world rather than abiding in suchness. Verse 233 tells us, the Vijnana, which is the seed of transmigration, is not evolved when this visible world is truly recognized. Like a picture on a wall, It disappears when its nature is recognized. I suppose the same thing happens when you're watching a particularly tense film, maybe a horror film, and you just have to remind yourself, well, it's just a picture on a screen. There's nothing real about it. So the Vijnana, which is the seed of transmigration, the seed of transmigration is what keeps us hooked in to stories about the world. If you're a philosopher, you make an investment in one of these stories. It might be an investment in a religious understanding, or maybe you're a hardcore atheist and you invest in the story of evolution, and you'll say, well, this must be true, it's in keeping with established scientific understanding. Well, you just have to be a bit more scientific and look a little bit more deeply into it. Such a story is fine within its particular frame of reference, but as an enlightenment practitioner, you're looking more deeply into why you need such stories, and you're letting go of such stories, because such stories siphon away the possibility of being established in suchness. So we're going beyond such stories. And I've looked at the limitations of the scientific stories in previous videos, and how if you really want to be scientific about it, you do end up going beyond such beliefs. So when you truly realize the nature of the visible world, and it's not just the visible world, it's the whole world of sensory experience, then you're on the path to liberation. Well, then you're an enlightenment practitioner. Your attention is no longer being sucked in to reflections. It can start settling into realization of its own supreme nature.